They always tell you that life is hard, that you must learn to deal with the difficulties that it throws at you in order to become stronger. They never warn you that life can scar you for a long time. They never tell you that that sometimes just trying harder isn't going to be enough. They never tell you that trying harder can bring you underwater, drown you, and utterly destroy your will of even trying at all. No one ever tells you to look out for yourself. They have always asked you to try harder, become someone important, noticeable. That with your good grades and perfect English, you will have the word handed to you on a silver plate, cooked to perfection and plated in the way that will gratify you and satisfy your hunger. They only ask you to please continue trying and bringing the honor and success you've been given since childhood. You're a lucky child, they say. You have the potential to become someone better, they say. All the while, the weight on your shoulders seems to become more and more noticeable as years go by. Little by little, life reminds you that in fact, all the success and glory you've been feeling is actually a trap. It all started around 4th grade. Mathematics seems to never make sense and it frustrated you a lot. At the end of the year, you snapped. You figured it was nothing after all, but you never actually knew why did it hurt so much to see your grade drop below average, and why your mother's disappointed face haunted you wherever you were. It's not until you were crying your eyes out while your mother continued to yell at you about how you were a failure that you understand something. It was the first time you'd fail at bringing what was expected, and maybe you were barely 10. But it left a long-lasting impression that would continue to torment you for the rest of your life. You stop talking after that. You become invested in learning how to conceal emotions. And while you do your best to learn and keep a normal appearance, life continues to throw rocks at your feet and you continue to stumble and fall. By the beginning of the 5th grade, your room is empty, and all the things you were allowed to keep were neatly packed in an old backpack. You realize that life is indeed stupid. In the 6th grade, you feel lost. Everyone around you didn't make sense, and few words you managed to catch would leave you confused and alone. You develop a sense of dread when thinking about school, walking the hallways and looking ridiculous in your khaki pants and white polo shirt. You start feeling confident about yourself. You don't wear skirts anymore. Acting like everything is okay seems like too much effort. You still pretend though, but you convince your family that you developed a hatred for skirts. You didn't. You focused on learning, focus on bringing back that glory, that success that you once knew, and make your family proud. You think that maybe you will start feeling a bit better about yourself if you manage to pull it off. Fortunately for you, it works, and you're given an identity, a title to hold on to, and a new form of success. Your mother is proud, and you feel lighter and happier with what you have accomplished. You never notice the weight on your shoulders increasing. Looking back, you never stop to notice how in the process of gaining what you think made you who you were, that you lost your ability to trust and talk to people. It was not until you were in high school that you noticed how utterly alone you were, how worthless and unnecessary all of your existence was, And in that moment, the weight on your shoulders grew so heavy that it was impossible for you to ignore it. You were suddenly drowning in thoughts, speculations, responsibility, and expectations. The false hope you had created was completely destroyed, and you understood that in fact your success was built on nothing but lies and make-believe. The word hate becomes the first word to come to mind when describing yourself. You came to realize this was how it all started. Waking up at noon, eating breakfast barely once a month, if not ever. Forcing yourself to make conversation with classmates because you had to, for your group project. It was all done manually, but without any feeling behind it. You closed the doors to everyone, your family, yourself. It wasn't until you were locked in the bathroom at 10 p.m., looking at your tear-stained face in the mirror while trying to control your hard, labored breath, that you realized there might be something completely wrong with you. Your nephews were outside. They never questioned you when you would lock yourself away, but you knew that they knew you weren't happy. You decided that if anything, it was not worth putting them through the hell you managed to drag yourself into. It's not until you move countries again that you are told what you always suspected. You're 17 years old and had adjusted to your lonely way of life. You don't really care who talks to you anymore. You make less effort into trying to leave an impression, but somehow you still care. You would tell yourself that it doesn't matter, that you only need the few friends and handful of online ones to keep you company. You're not good at listening to yourself. Days go on, and you begin to embrace your inner hatred towards yourself. You continue to judge your actions, to belittle yourself, all the while fooling everyone around you that you're as happy as they expect you to be. Your mother becomes more bitter towards your decisions, and you lose your will to stay strong. You no longer have the excuse of being a child after all. They all know you're capable of making smart decisions, and they want you to make them. But you don't know how. That was when you started peeling on more responsibility. You begin to have breakdowns. Ugly things really that crushed you on the inside. You made it hard to breathe, and the room spun. During these breakdowns, you cry yourself to sleep. You scratch at your arms until red marks form and stay for hours. You bite the inner skin of your thumb. All the while remaining as quiet as possible. Crying becomes a thing to do while in bed, while your mom is asleep. During the day, you pretend everything is okay, that the scratches are because of some weird rash and that your sleepless nights are caused by nightmares. They still ask you to get counseling, and you accept to make them happy. You never actually like it. It makes you uncomfortable and upset. Talking about your problems to the lady makes you have more breakdowns. You decided to stop going. When they ask you why, you tell them it's because the counselor hadn't felt right for you. They accept that and move on. It's not until you were 19 years old that someone in your family notices how utterly broken you are. You're grateful, but at the same time, you didn't know how to accept their help. You never know how to. They still try to help and you try to cooperate, but in the end the entire thing makes you frustrated. You, of course, close the doors again. It takes you one fast-paced job and a bad customer and 2 hours of trying not to break down in public to finally admit to yourself that you need help. After your shift was done, you spend the ride home at the back of the bus, sobbing into the microphone of your headphones while your best friend tries to calm you down, while you let a year worth of pretending crumble around you. You hate crying in public, but you really don't give a damn. By the time you get home, your eyes and nose are both red. You pretend to be too tired and promptly fall asleep. This was the only night you didn't have a nightmare. You quit your job, saying that they were planning on letting you go anyways, and instead focus on researching about yourself. You try to understand, why would you feel like this? Begin to ask questions. You finally find your answer and begin to take steps to recovery. And although alone, you somehow manage to bring yourself out of the hole you had fallen into. Breathing becomes a little easier. Looking at yourself in the mirror is now an okay thing to do. And as time goes on, you become better at accepting people into your life. You are still in the hole. You still have downward spirals. You're not completely okay. But you somehow manage to soldier on, now with the hopes that in the future, breathing will be effortless again.